Hello, everybody, and welcome to Getting APIs to Work. Today, we say hello to Shubham Sharma from a YouTube channel, I guess, and we'll talk about low code, no code. Hey, Shubham, thanks for joining.
Hey, thanks, Eric, for inviting me. And yeah, as you said, so I have a YouTube channel where I talk about low code, no code. So I'm an educator in that space, and I have a background in APIs because I used to be a developer evangelist where I used to promote and help people build APIs. So I'm super happy to be on your channel.
Yeah, you have the perfect mix, I would say, of experience for this. And so far, I haven't done any video about low code, no code, and I think it's really interesting because it is something, as you will tell us a little bit about, where you can realize the value of your API investment, so to speak, pretty quickly. And that's what you do on a regular basis. I recommend, of course, everybody checks out Shubham's channel, even though I think you're just posting in French, right? So
Right. That's true that all my content is only in French for now because there is a big demand in French because it's the country where I grew up was France. So yeah, today it's only in French. Maybe one of the days it's gonna be in English, but yeah.
But to me, the amazing thing is the space is so popular that it even works, right? And you do that full time, basically. That it works if you just do that for the French market, which I think is, shows you just how interesting that area is, that you can already just, address individual markets, and that's good enough. But yes, do it in English, please. But so here's your first opportunity to do a little bit of this in English. So let's talk a little bit about what low code, no code is, and why it is something that you should at least think about when you start your API journey.
Yeah. So and thanks for this opportunity, by the way, to do it in English. Hope it's gonna be understandable for you folks. So basically, it's layers of abstractions for people that are from the tech world and that are programmers. We know what a level of abstraction is like. Either you go directly super deep in the computer and you do all binary, or you small by small you go on different languages that are not necessarily easier, but that you do not have to control everything to make things happen. So let's say we build an API using, I don't know, JavaScript. Let's say in backend, that's a layer of abstraction because at the end, what's happening is the computer functioning and doing some stuff. Basically, low code, no code is different layers of abstractions that are enabling people that are not necessarily developers, programmers, to build stuff, to either build automations and connecting APIs together, even though they don't even know what, say, REST API or GraphQL API or whatever API is. And on the other hand, we have people building apps, building web apps, like native apps, PWAs, without even knowing how to code. And this is the magic of low code, no code that help people that are not programmers do stuff that was not impossible before, because we used to have softwares like that back in days. Like Dreamweaver was a amazing WYSIWYG software. It was not a new thing, but it's just that today more than ever we have people wanting to do that, wanting to create website and apps and stuff without even knowing what HTML is. So we have more in need of that today. That's why there is a big boom of low code, no code tools.
We have more need, and I think we also have just more sources of information that we can easily tap into, right? I think this is kind of what the APIs bring into the mix, where yes, on the one hand there are these nice tools, but on the other hand those tools also need some inputs. And I think now we get to a situation where a lot of companies are heavily investing into creating those information sources, and then the question is, now that you have them, right, how do you make the most out of them? And I think low code, no code is such a nice way of doing that. And it's something, like you say, that everybody can do. It doesn't need to be a classic developer. And that, I think, is super helpful. Now, if we look into the space of tools that are available, and there's a whole bunch of them, I we talked about it, and you said there are two big categories of tools that you could probably distinguish a little bit. So could you please explain to us what these two categories look like, what they focus on, and maybe why they were interesting for a specific set of tasks?
Yeah, I would say for someone who has not a understanding and is just discovering the no code low code movement, I think it's great to see that by two different categories. The first is the app builders, means I want to build an app or a website or something that is visible on the web and usable on either the web on your or on your phone, is app builders. So you can just with a few drag and drops and with a few plugins and connectors and stuff, build a native apps or a native usable app for your users. So it's amazing for people that initially don't know how to code and want to build either a MVP or want to build so most viable product for people launching stuff, or either in your company you don't want to invest in heavy tech teams doing that, so you can do that with a couple of tools, and we'll have the time to show one of them or a couple of them. So this is the first category. The second one is
Hmm.
automations. Automations is, let's say I am someone who wants a scenario of automation to happen. Like when someone send me this type of email, I do this with
Hmm.
the attachment and then reply the person back with that. Or when someone fills this form, do this workflow. These are automations that before that we used to code for that, like
Oh yes, a
in the
lot,
DevOps
and
world.
very expensively.
Yeah, and you have to maintain that. That's the second part no one's talking about. I mean, like it's the invisible part when you start doing that. Like I remember, like in the DevOps world, you have these recurring tasks that are, that are cron tabs for people that probably know what it is. So it's horrible to manage. Like it's horrible to manage because the user interface it's cool in a way because it's super techy,
There
but it's
is
not
none, right?
maintainable.
Yeah. It's just
It's not.
command line. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically it's a new form of doing that. So the second part of the no-code tools are automation tools that help you build automations just by dragging and dropping. So by visually constructing these automation and making them work and be live and be more maintainable for people.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's really interesting for me to hear because, of course, automation, right? That's what is a lot on people's minds. How can I build processes basically more easily? And then, of course, getting apps into the hand of people also is very interesting. So you brought us a little bit of a demo, I think, for these two classes, and I think let's jump right in. And here is the first one that you have prepared with, I think, is Make.
Yeah.
And
So
maybe you can just walk us through it.
yeah, so there are a lot of tools, right? So Make is one of them. Zapier is one of them, and it's probably the oldest. But this one is one of the more advanced. So basically, what do you do? Like here is what I pretty much said in the beginning: is like, hey, I fill out a form, then the information that I fill out gets into three different part of the workflow, and I can just notify my team, send an email, create a record, etc., etc. And you have like a lot of different categories of tools that are available, and you can do a lot of things. And everything's happened with connecting app together, right? Like it's not magic behind that. It's all APIs, but it's just invisible for people. So like they have thousand apps so that people can connect with different categories. So you can imagine something like, hey, if something enters my CRM in HubSpot, just make sure to create a record in Monday or in Notion and add them to my Google contact user list, and also send the person a request for a Calendly invite so that we can have a chat together. So these are all the tools that people use on that. And the way basically it works, oh, by the way, it used to be called Integromat before, which is
Oh,
not the case anymore. But let me just, here we go. Let me just sign up and show you a little bit how it works kind of in real life. So here are, for example, all my automation that I use. And let's say, this is the automation that basically what it does is that when I create a new to-do, depending on what I write in my to do, it's like if it's a to do or just a thing I want to remember, it goes to Notion, and I complete the task in my to do app, Todoist, so that it doesn't stay, it doesn't create duplicates. And I have a error handling thing where if there is an error, just ignore it, because I'm a lazy person and I don't want the scenario to be stopped just because I've added something like, like a comma or something that is not handled here. So
Hmm.
this is ways to create, these automations. Like you have way more like advanced stuff for people that know, for example, what JSON is. So you can parse JSON. You can, you can do a lot of things with that. So that's how it works. You basically start a scenario. You just add an API. Let's say I add the HubSpot API, right? And I have all the API actions that are mapped out here in human language, and like do
Hmm.
file, like watch this mean that's so acid here is just basically, or watch is, it's gonna be a webhook happening, and
Hmm.
not really a polling kind of situation happening. So you have this, you have like webhooks directly in it. You have mail hooks. You have a lot of things that you can do with that. So that's basically the way it works. You just connect things between each other, and you have a lot of control about iteration, etc. So it's basically a visual building tools.
Yeah.
Make is one of them. You have a lot of open source one. N8N is another tool, for example, which can help you create workflows in the same way. It's all open source. You can install it, and people are probably familiar with Rednode, which is a one that are more towards of a low code tool. So the frontier between no code and low code is pretty thin. It all depends what you want to do. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's one type of usage of no code.
And that's, I mean, that feels like something, and I think that's the explicit goal of these things, right? That you could definitely teach to somebody who doesn't have like a heavy technical background, and they would be able to just click things together, including things from your own APIs, right? Which is, I think, really cool to see.
Yeah, correct. And you have like, if you don't have integration already, you just create a HTTP request and like be okay. I want to make a basic auth with a get method with that URL with that headings with this, but like you can make that directly in it. And this is not only like static. This then becomes something that I can schedule and or schedule depending on how you say it. But it's basically like I want this to happen every day at this time, or I want this to happen now. You know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay. So I think that is really interesting. And like you said, there are many tools in that space that you can check out. I think there we don't have time to compare all of them, but I think just exploring that space might be a worthwhile thing to do if you have APIs and you're not yet using those. Okay. So I think that's category number one.
Yep.
Now, for category number two, you also prepared a little bit of stuff to show us.
Yeah. So the second one are app builders. So app builders are basically here are the templates. So I can build apps like that, like a customer portal or employee directory or inventory and all that. Like these are all apps that would take hours, let's say, to build, and hours and days, etc. Whereas here you have basically, and I'm gonna open Glide. Glide is one of the tool, one of the app builders that is the simplest. And basically the way it works is, hey, I wanna, for example, create a new app that is only oh, you know what, I'll make it mobile and desktop. And then basically how it works is i I either go from scratch or from template. And here we go, like this is the basic template that I have. And what's happening in back office is that you can see all these names. Actually, these are Excel sheet, basically. So if I create, if I change name, if I do whatever with the image, etc., it's actually happening in real time. Here, I can just basically change the layouts of these things, that's something, it takes time to build in front end or whatever language or framework you use.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the mobile version already built up, so you can just interact with it. You can add stuff. You have a form, and all this basically just interact, directly with. There we go. So yeah, I'm just in demo mode, but basically that interacts directly with the back office, which is your database. You have different type of database, like you can not only, this is their internal database thing, but you can connect it with Google Sheet, Excel, Airtable, whatever you want. And you have a lot of integrations as well, where you can, like, these are the integration for the data, but you have integration for like other APIs that you want to connect to that. This is the easier one, but you have more advanced one. Like one of the one is Bubble. Bubble.io
Mm-hmm.
is a one is pretty known, where you can do the same thing but with way more control on the way it appears, etc. Like how
Mm-hmm.
you want workflow you want to build, which plugins you want to add, how do you want to display the data in a graph or in text mode, etc. You have Flutter Flow, which is another tool that is now becoming more and more popular, which is in the same kind of vein of than Webflow that probably some of you have heard of. Like this is all drag and drop, but you have more control that only the drag. You have control like on the pixels, on all that, and you have everything is basically configurable, but it's just visual.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool. And I think I mean, just from the things that you ran through, I'm guessing there are probably dozens of more tools out there that you could use.
Oh yeah, like if you yeah, app builders, there are, so yesterday I made a video about that, and I had to go over like probably 25 tools to just benchmark them, and I've selected 5. And it was, everything is so similar, but at the same time everything has so much difference. So so yeah, it's all depends
Yeah.
what you want to do with it.
Yes, and I'm sure there's always like this little limitation, right? Like you want to do exactly that, and that doesn't work. But that, I mean, in the end, I think the good thing about these tools, at least, is because they are so simple. Also, trying them out is not such a big effort, right? It's not like a months long evaluation process. You just play around with it for a little while, and then you can relatively quickly, I would guess, determine whether that works for you, at least for now, or not.
Yeah, totally,
Yeah.
and it's a big, time thing where people can build faster, showcase faster, probably, make their MVP faster and move on faster, or probably continue
Yeah.
faster and invest more for faster. So it's basically a question of time and money, and technology helped that.
Yeah, and I think it's a great way, and that's I think something that we started with when we talked about this, right? It's a great way also to just demonstrate or validate the investments that you are making into your API initiative. Where of course you probably also still want to do traditional programming and integration stuff, but having that as an additional thing, where as you said, right, you can build things very quickly and very easily, is something that is great as a validation and as a demonstration that APIs are allowing you to do things that beforehand you couldn't do that easily.
Yeah.
Okay, Shubham, thank you so much for joining. And now you have to like move up a little bit so that we can show this nice. So great. I just saw Shubham wearing this shirt when we started recording, and had to say I have to wear my Berkeley shirt as well so that we're
Yeah, that's
matching
so funny.
outfits. It is. So thanks so much for joining. It was great, really, to get a little bit of a peek into this world of low code, no code. I hope that at some point you will start creating English content. If you do, we'll certainly will make another video. But at least for now, I have the privilege of having the only English video with you on the internet. Well, not quite, I guess, but
But at least fine. Those thanks a lot for inviting me, and for letting me show to the API people what no code, low code is.
yeah, thanks again. And thanks everybody for joining, for watching. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing. And with that, we are done for today. Thank you very much. And until next time, bye.